How do you escape your current career or job or position you feel stuck in? Well, I guess, of course, it's very unique to whoever is listening at this point. So I'm going to talk about my own experiences and discoveries. But I think my first thing would be to encourage you and say, if you have a real kind of burning desire to do something else, then that's probably your soul speaking to you. Now, of course, it could be a more egotistical thing, like you may just want more money, but usually when you ask people, why do you want the money? They say, so I can have the freedom. And then if you explore that, there's a ton of things they want to do with their freedom, and it's not work where they are right now. So where they're working really is a means to an end. And I think for many of us, if not most of us, that's the reality. And one of the problems with our careers is they're very boxed in, they're very segmented, and speaking for myself as an engineer, there's even channels of engineering: electrical, electronic, mechanical, software, but there can be very much glass ceilings in technical roles, or it's the structures of organisations that we work for, and so it can kind of seem a bit impossible to go from where you are to a different area, something that you find genuinely exciting. But I think my first question to you would be, why do you find that exciting? Why does it light your fire, if you like? And if it's a kind of internal or passion, then it's probably because you're meant to do that, or your soul frequency resonates with that. And if you're on a specific sort of trajectory, or because careers can be like railway tracks, really, can't they? They're very independent. They may have certain commonalities or crossover, but it can be seemingly impossible to jump from one role to another. And then there may be aspects of what you do now that you don't want to lose. There's lots of career building advice around. I think it's Tim Ferriss, the 4-hour working week, talks about creating a ruse or a sort of career on the side. And I think that's a really practical way to start. But something I would throw in from a much more spiritual perspective is there are certain thought patterns that identify you with your current role, and that can make it pretty much impossible to see yourself doing something else. And the trouble is, these things can be so deep that we don't even question them, and they can be an advantage at times. So for me, engineering is something I always wanted to do, but then I also wanted to do film and video, and the only way I have brought that into my life has been through as a side thing, really, although that's a long story because I also did a course in that. But I think what I'm trying to get across to you is you're feeling stuck because you're not expressing an aspect of yourself. And if you can learn to stop identifying so closely with the thoughts, patterns of thought that hold you in that role you're in at the moment, and start to hear more from your inner self with what your heart and your passion speaks to you, then I think you will eventually dissolve some of those restrictions that were stopping you seeing possibilities that were perhaps already there or are coming, and you need to be more open in order to see them. So, using my own example again, I wanted to be an inventor, but it turns out you invent something, it's only part of the story, so you have to commercialize it and all of that. And that's been an incredible journey for me that has really expanded me. But then the spiritual side has come in, and I thought of doing YouTube or sort of teachings before, and I always felt I wasn't ready because I'm not the polished or finished article of either spiritually or as a entrepreneur or engineer, but then we never are we? And it kind of dawned on me that it's later than you think, as my father's nan used to say. And sometimes we need to kind of explore that way, try something without being so fixated on the end point. And I think that's it's an area where the spiritual and the conventional teachings differ. We tend to, with respect to careers, and we're always thinking of the end point. It's about getting to a certain point. And then we set our trajectory. So we may go down a technical role or a marketing role, and okay, sometimes we may be going to the same point, maybe CEO or something, or we're aiming for. In a lot of cases, we're just trying to pay the bills. But in a spiritual perspective, we're really dealing with what is now, and we're not worrying about where it's going to, which is quite a radical way to think, and seemingly something without aim or purpose, and it often does take us on a very meandering path. But that path is more about self-discovery and unfolding, I would say. And sometimes it's the self-discovery that's necessary for us to be able to see the thing that we want to do. So we may discover that there's a part of ourselves that actually we do want to express, a creative part, or something that we've never really bothered with because we can't see value in that. And that may be a viewpoint that we've been brought up with. So it's so deep we don't even understand it's there. And I know this is something I say quite a bit, but it's in my own self-discovery of, wow, I didn't realise I had such an ingrained idea of the world that I just thought that's how it was. I really didn't think it was an idea at all. Any kind of distortion, I thought it was reality. So I think there is much to take from the spiritual side of life with respect to careers, because by hearing our deeper self, we can tap into that incredible wisdom and knowledge that will steer us and take us to a better place, a better point. And it will kind of feed us on the journey as well, which I think is really important. I think for me, climbing the career ladder, if you like, which is not quite me, I've never really done well in any organisation because I rather tend to call a spade a spade. But progression is through pain and struggle, and back to the analogy of the athlete that wants to become the best, they have to arguably work the hardest. So we tend to associate that and with growth, and the idea that through hearing our inner self, feeding that part of ourselves which we really love, which may seem utterly disconnected from where we want to be, we're growing as a being, and we're growing something. And often some things are best grown in the dark, and there's a wisdom that's come to me through spirituality again. I'm so keen to be able to see down the road ahead and into the spirit world, if you like, and see what life has in store. And it's relatively recently I've come to realise that some things cannot grow in the light. Mushrooms spring to mind. So nurture your passion, feed it. Maybe allow yourself to daydream about those things. Do you remember as children we used to daydream? I even got on my school report, he daydreams a lot, as a criticism. And now I think, how dare you? It's a superpower, wish I had more. And perhaps your soul will start to speak to you more on something. And maybe it will require some great sacrifice and some great loss or some great... Well, maybe it won't. Maybe it will just be a series of self-discovery awakenings and delightful insights that take you to a place where you'll feel fulfilled and that you're actually doing what you're meant to be doing on the earth. And that may even be exactly what you're doing right now, or maybe something completely different, or some kind of hybrid, or I can't say that. I can't even begin to tell you what that might be. But what I can tell you is that if you're going to really feel engaged with that and passionate about it, then you need to be hearing your passion now and allowing that to manifest through you. That's your highest vibration, or your greatest self-actualization in my view. So keen to hear from anyone who wants to share experiences, or for what it's worth, get my feedback. But I'm very much a pragmatist, and I believe paying the bills is a really great way to do things. Not necessarily the best. And if I was young and had little to risk, I would be much more venturous. But everyone has their own path to walk. So if I can help you, I'm keen to. So just put something in the comments and reach out. Thank you.